Hi, I'm Norman Perillo, a furniture designer maker at Perillo Design and a woodworking educator author at WoodSkills. And today I'd like to talk about a new portable tool case I'll be building over the next week or two. I'll show you an upcoming image of the actual tool case, and it's a tool case that originates from a Yeung Chan design. I had taken a furniture-related course with Yeung Chan about exactly 20 years ago at a furniture making school, a local furniture making school, and I was completely in awe of this portable tool case he brought along from San Francisco, and he traveled with it to teach and had the tools he used the most in his hand tool woodworking. Hand planes, saws, chisels mostly, and some measuring and layout tools. So I was in awe of it, and I told myself I'd like to perhaps build one day, and that time has come. I'm going to be going through all the steps in my build, twin steps on building it, and I'll show the first part, and I'll be talking about how I laid out the tools and how it's critical to lay out the tools for your own, the tools you have in your own hand tool woodworking, your own chisels, saws, because they all come with different lengths. Some handsaw lengths and chisel lengths have been standardized, but some manufacturers don't follow any conventions, so they have longer ones or shorter ones. It depends on what you use, and also start working on the dividers. So it's very critical that I get the dimensions right. So I'm now working on the stand for the bottom part of the case. It's the simpler of the two. It only has this one panel and the two tilted, slanted components to hold it up, and this locking component for the bottom. So I'm trying to work out some measurements and working with a couple of photos that I've had for a couple of decades now. So it's not easy to scale it up. So at least I know this dimension. I understand now how they interlock together, and so I need to actually, so this is almost to scale. It is to scale actually. And so I should begin the process of cutting it out, and then I'll work on the similar stand that's a little more complex for the upper part, for the top of the case. And these panels are designed to actually fit within the actual case itself. Dimensions are to scale, so it fits right in, and it provides a 1/4 inch something to retain all the tools when in transport. So when the two cases come together, I can't really give an example of that now. When the two cases come together, it's a tight fit, but just enough room to keep it from locking in together. It keeps the tools from moving around. Hopefully that's the case. So these two solid portions will interlock into these two slots. So I need to create these two slots. They're approximately 1/4 inch wide and 2.5 inches long, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, judging from the photo. So these two parts are actually similar, so I can actually double this up. I can cut the parts up, the blank parts, and flip them and orient them then, and cut the slots out in one piece. So I'll probably use a drill at these ends and then cut with a fine saw in between. I'm not sure at this point, but I'm just laying it out now, trying to get an understanding of how it works so I don't make a mistake. I only have a limited amount of this 1/4 inch Baltic birch ply. I'll go from here, and I'll probably give a little demonstration of how I do it also coming up. I'm now working on the two stands, one for the left. They're the two halves of the portable tool case. They're a little bit different. So the components need to fit in within the case, but need to be within the inner frame of the case of each of the cases. And each of the cases has a different dimension of inner case. So I've already cut the components out for the bottom or for the larger part of the case. These are the rough components with some, I've upscaled from a photo and hoping that the measurements are correct, and worked it out. So this is a platform. And the other components would fit in the slots. Mainly this component, it's in the slot here. Sorry. Like this. I don't know if this is orientation. It's hard to visualize, but this is the solid part. This is a gap, and that's a second tendon, I would call it. and they slide right in and lock in. So I've got that done. Now I've begun to work on the top case, and it's a little wider, maybe a ½ inch or so, or 3/8 of an inch, with different an extra slot and 3 tenons. These are the tenons. That's where I am now. So what I'd like to do next, it's quite labor intensive to do this, quite involved, to get everything right, because it needs to be symmetric on either side and all that. What I'm going to do next is actually start to cut out the openings, so start to make more sense, and then try to fit the openings within the slots and I'm trying to come up with a system on how to accurately create these slots, probably using a drill press, a drill, and then sawing everything up by hand with a fine like fret saw or something. So that's where I am now. Well, I've advanced quite a bit in the build. This is where I'm at now. I've actually completed the stand, fine-tuned it to fit the inner frame of both the bottom and the top part of the case. So this actually works. I'll give an example later when I do a video. Everything's marked left top, so this actually fits in here and locks in. So the components are slightly different for both either the top or the bottom part of the case. You can see everything fits in. I've had to actually move one of the components to the other one. The bottom one, this is the top case. I've actually trimmed the inner frame down a little. And this is a filler panel here, just so it doesn't shift from one direction to the other. Everything's fine in that regard. The only other item left to do is create something to keep the panels down, because it's the upper case, the top case, that actually flips over and interlocks with the bottom case. If you don't have anything to keep this down, all the tools and dividers will just fall out, tumble as you lift it and flip it over. So the idea is, what Yeung Chan did is created these 2 strips, inserted into some mortises just above the dividers, and they're lengthwise, so they're at the long end, and they're just narrow enough to be able to flex with some tenons at the end. So I've actually done that. I've created the mortises first to fit, and I'm just in the process of creating the matching tenons. This fits. So this will keep everything down in transport on either side, and I've also picked some wood that has more of a concave shape, so the inner part is automatically, when the outside parts are attached through the mortise and tenons, the inner part actually has more tension on it. That took some time. So this is where I'm at. I'm actually just finished this one, and this is the tenon on either end. It has shoulders to conceal it a little, and this is the fatter version, the opposite side. So I'm about to create the tenons on that and then fit that in. Now you notice it's much thicker than the other because I have to trim it down later. I trim it down to a point where it flexes more. This was a little bit over like 5/16, and I've got it down to just under a 1/4 inch, maybe between 3 and 4/16 of an inch. So it flexes more. This doesn't flex as much. I might even have to trim it a little more. So there's a compromise between the fact that it flexes and how much tension it can produce to keep everything in the compartment. So that's where I'm at now. So I'll go ahead and create the tenons for this. So I think I've marked off some of the tenons. These are cheeks that I'm going to be sawing. So I've gone ahead and cleaned the 3 shoulders with the chisel, squared everything off. Just to give you an idea. So once I've done that, I just fit it into that mortise I created earlier, and that fits. So next is to mark off this end, allowing for a tenon, cut it, and then create that 3 shoulders and a tenon to fit in. And notice it's concave, so this will give some added pressure in the middle. I do need to actually reduce the thickness, and I do that by once I've completed the tenons. So I've opened the case up, separated the top and the bottom, and you can see the overlaid panels that will serve as the platform or the stand. And you'll notice also these two strips, these are custom strips mortised into the ends. And what the strips do are keep the stand components down, because this is the part, the top part is the part that I flip over and sits over the bottom part of the case. So everything would fall out unless I had these custom strips. So I mortised them in. You can see the small tenons I created to fit into some custom mortises. So this has tension in it, and it's designed to be concave, so it compresses the middle part too. And I'll just remove this one. So there's a little concavity here, and this reinforces or presses down in the middle, adds some extra tension in the middle. Very interesting to make these because they have to be at the right thickness to allow them to flex enough, yet maintain the strength, rigidity. So I think it's a little over 3/16 of an inch. These are the panels. There's a filler panel here to keep everything from moving around. And these are the panels that comprise the stand for the bottom part and part of this one. So it's just they're arranged so they fit together. So next I'll separate the components of the stand, assemble the stand and show the stand, how it fits within this cabinet, the top and bottom cabinets, and then I'll set them up and you can see the end result of how this looks at the end, and it's quite striking actually. It was interesting to create these slots and have everything lined up. There's quite a bit of engineering involved with how these fit together. And I wasn't the person that designed the original setup, but I was very, very impressed with how they determined what's the best angle for it for the tilt on the cabinets. You'll see it's the best angle that maintains downward weight and yet keeps it from tipping over backwards, and how it interlocks together. So this is how it looks with the knockdown stands assembled. And again, these are customized. You can see how they fit into each of the upper and lower, the top and bottom part of the case. And this is so this would not fit here, and this is specifically for the upper part of the case. And it fits right in. And this is the lower part. So there's about 4 parts for each of these stands, as you've seen earlier when I had them overlaid over the compartments. So if you notice, I still have some marking tape here, but it's all dovetailed together. The dovetail really reinforced the corner joinery. It's almost, with the weight of the cabinets, the individual parts of the cabinets, almost critical to use a sort of a dovetail reinforced joinery. This is how the stands are assembled, and next I'll actually set them up on the stands and you can get a better view of how it looks in its final form. So please subscribe to my YouTube woodworking channel, where I share more of my woodworking techniques, my woodworking philosophy, my thoughts on woodworking, and all the challenges I've experienced. And I introduce some of the new forms of woodworking I've discovered. And also visit woodskills.com, where I have a good selection of my books, both in print and digital format, on woodworking, and all my online courses, and I also offer some woodworking plans. I have maintained a regular blog on what I've got going on in my workshop and in woodworking in general. So enjoy.